Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something, well, incredibly profound.
Yeah, definitely ambitious.
We're looking at ultimate predetermination. And I mean ultimate, not just God knowing what's going to happen.
No, this goes way beyond foresight.
The sources we're examining today argue that the central event of history, it was planned out, decreed, before creation.
Before space, before time. A cosmic blueprint, essentially. That's the claim.
It really forces you to rethink everything, doesn't it? History, destiny.
Absolutely. And our sources zero in on the second Godhead, that's the term they use, and the absolute necessity of the cross.
Right. The core idea seems to be that creation itself was somehow dependent on the cross happening later.
That's it, exactly. It wasn't an afterthought. It was foundational to the whole project of the universe.
So our mission, really, for this deep dive is to unpack that, understand the sheer scope of this decree, and the sources lay out, 11 distinct purposes?
11 specific, interconnected reasons why this decree was made. It's incredibly detailed, a cosmic checklist, you could almost say.
And right at the start, we hit this paradox, don't we? How can human free will, the awful stuff, Herod, Pilate, they're conspiracies.
Yeah, driven by politics, fear, pure self-interest.
How can that perfectly execute a plan set before the ages, as the source puts it?
And that's key. The human conspiracy wasn't a bug, it was a feature. It wasn't something God had to work around. It was, strangely, the mechanism itself. We need to explore that. Okay, let's start there then, section 1. This foreknowledge and how human actions fit in. The foundational claim really flips the usual script, doesn't it? Completely. Yeah. We usually see the crucifixion as, the tragic end result of conflict, human failure.
A reaction to things getting out of hand.
Right. But these sources insist, no, it was pre-programmed. The core decree, they say, was that the second Godhead was set apart, decreed to come as Adam.
As Adam. Specifically. And to face Hades, the realm of death. And this is crucial. The cross wasn't plan B because Adam fell. It wasn't a reaction to sin escalating. It was plan A.
It was plan A, the only plan. The sources argue it was the required step for creation itself to be completed. The decision was made before anything was made that the universe could only reach its final, perfect state through this specific act.
Okay, decreed to come as Adam.
Yeah.
That's very specific. Why Adam? And facing Hades. What's the significance there?
Well, coming as Adam means stepping into the representative role. The plan needed someone who could fulfill what the first Adam didn't within the framework of creation itself.
As a human.
Fully human, yes. To satisfy divine justice from within the created order. And facing Hades. That signifies fully taking on the ultimate consequence, the penalty, required by the divine law that governs creation. It wasn't just symbolic.
It was the full payment.
The comprehensive fulfillment of the consequence. Yeah. Only by doing that could the foundation of creation be completed according to this decree.
So creation started with this built-in requirement, a need for the cross to bridge it to completion. Okay, back to Herod and Pilate then. Acts 4 seems key here.
It is. Acts 4, verses 27 and 28. It lists the players who gathered against the holy servant, as it says.
Right, you've got Herod.
The local Jewish puppet king.
Pontius Pilate.
The Roman governor, the colonial power.
The Gentiles.
The wider non-Jewish world.
And the people of Israel themselves.
The religious authorities, the covenant community. Think about it. These groups normally hated each other. Different goals, deep resentments.
But they all came together for this one moment.
Exactly. It wasn't a friendly coalition. It was a perfect storm of fear, political calculation, religious protectionism. Herod wants stability. Pilate wants no riots. The priests want control.
And yet, verse 28 says...
Verse 28 is stunning. It says, their assembly, their actions were to carry out what God's power and will had foreordained.
Foreordained. That word is doing a lot of work there.
Yeah.
It implies their malice, their politics was somehow guided, or maybe channeled is a better word. This hits that central tension. If their evil actions were the intended mechanism, does that make God the author of their evil? Yeah, that's the immediate objection, isn't it?
It is, and the sources make a critical distinction here. They argue God foreordained the outcome, the final result, and even the type of mechanism, human opposition. But he didn't force their hand. He didn't make Herod or Pilate evil.
They chose their path freely.
Entirely freely, operating out of their own malice and ambition. But God, in his sovereignty, ensured that their freely chosen path, their wickedness, perfectly served the divine decree set before time.
So the evil choice belongs to them, but the perfect timing and the function of that evil, that belongs to the plan.
Precisely. Utilized, not authored. The fact that all these opposing forces converged at the exact right moment, fulfilling prophecies, that's presented as proof of God's sovereignty working through, even using human free action. Their hatred became a necessary ingredient.
Okay? And the flip side of that is the agency of the second Godhead himself. He wasn't just a passive victim of this. John 10. Yes, John 10, point 1c and 18. This totally reframes the power dynamic. The Father loves me because I lay down my life. Why? That I may take it up again. So the resurrection isn't just the happy ending. It was part of the original instruction. Intrinsic to it, it was always a package deal, death and resurrection. It wasn't just about dying, and the emphasis on control. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down by myself.
Choloria, that's incredibly assertive.
It is. Despite the legions, the political pressure, the sources insist that if he hadn't chosen that moment, their conspiracy would have failed. It wouldn't have worked. So this counters any idea of him being overwhelmed or defeated. Absolutely. The passage mentions the twin authorities, power to lay down life and power to take it up again.
Oh.
Cam? This shows the cross as an act of authority, fulfilling a command received from the Father in that pre-creation council, not just a tragic event forced upon him. So the human actors had their limited wicked agency. But the ultimate control, the final say, belonged to the second Godhead exercising his decreed authority.
Correct. It's simultaneously human malice executing its plan and divine authority executing his plan. Okay, let's push further back then. Section 2, the cosmic context. This before the ages, before creation idea. How far back are we talking? Well, the sources draw a very sharp distinction. The decree for the cross happened before God initiated creation. Briajan, well, he was in how do you? That's the phrase.
Wow. So creation wasn't step one. The decree was step one. Creation was step two.
Effectively, yes. It implies creation was designed as the stage, the necessary environment for this decreed event to unfold.
So the universe, stars, planets, laws of physics, all set up knowing the cross was the end game, or the turning point.
The necessary point of completion. That's the argument. God determined to complete creation through the cross. Our current universe, subject to decay, incompleteness, it's temporary. The cross was the pre-planned way to transition it to its final eternal state.
And this planning included the key players. The sources mention Hillel and Adam being created after the decree.
Yes, specifically at the appointed time, Hillel. Hillel understood in these texts as the being who became Satan was created knowing the cross was already decreed.
So his potential fall, his opposition was already factored in.
Factored in. He and Adam were created with the characteristics and at the time needed for their roles in the drama leading to the cross. Their existence, their free will, their eventual choices, all part of setting the stage for the decreed solution.
Which brings up the idea of secrecy. Why keep this ultimate plan hidden? 1 Corinthians 2 talks about hidden wisdom. Right, 1 Corinthians 2.7. This is fascinating. It talks about God's wisdom, secret and hidden, which God decreed before the ages for our glory. Before the ages again, consistently. And verse 8 is the kicker. None of the rulers of this age understood this, for if they had, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. So their ignorance was necessary, functionally necessary. It was a feature, not a bug. Think about it. If the villains in a play knew their actions were actually bringing about the hero's victory, they might change their strategy, right? They might hesitate or try to sabotage the plot differently.
Exactly. They had to genuinely believe they were winning, crushing a rebellion, silencing a nuisance, whatever their motive was. Their limited view, their ignorance of the bigger picture, guaranteed they would make their evil choices freely and authentically.
And those authentic evil choices were precisely what the plan required to move forward.
Precisely. The plan itself required key players to be blind to the final act. It speaks to an incredible level of logistical control.
Yeah, control over timing, methods. The sources emphasize God alone determines the when and how. Down to the smallest detail. Look at Matthew 26. Jesus says he could call down 12 legions of angels.
Right. Why even mention that power if it's off the table?
To show it wasn't off the table due to lack of power, it was off the table due to the plan. He asks, but how then should the scriptures be fulfilled that it must be so? John. Refusing the angels was an act of obedience to the prior decree.
Submission to the plan over raw power.
Correct. And the method of execution, too. Matthew 27 points out the timing hinged on the festival custom.
The governor releasing a prisoner, the whole Barabbas choice.
Yes.
Oh.
That specific Roman political custom happening at that specific Jewish festival time became the exact instrument needed for the public rejection and condemnation. It wasn't random. Daniel says the most high rules human kingdoms.
And Daniel 9 predicts the precise timing for the Anointed One to be cut off.
And Luke 22 talks about the hour of the power of darkness.
5:3, yes. This is your hour and the power of darkness.
OG2. It confirms their power was temporary, permitted, constrained within a specific window needed for the plan. They thought they were taking control, but they were operating on a timetable set by a higher authority.
Which brings us back to that almost severe analogy in Romans 9, the potter and the clay.
21. It's dark, isn't it? Does the potter not have the right over the clay to make one vessel for honorable use?
Yeah.
And another for dishonorable use?
Okay. It removes any argument about the rights of the clay, doesn't it?
It establishes the absolute sovereignty of the Creator over the function and destiny of the creation. It underpins the idea that some vessels are prepared for wrath, necessary roles in the unfolding drama, like Judas or Polasi, while others are prepared for mercy and glory. So even the vessels of wrath had a necessary function in the plan for the vessels of mercy. Their choices, freely made in dishonor, serve the honorable purpose.
That's the difficult but logical conclusion from the premise of a pre-cosmic, all-encompassing decree. Okay, so we've got the when before time, the how, sovereignty using free choices, even evil ones, the who, second Godhead as Adam. Now section 3, the why, the big list, the 11 purposes.
Right, and remember, the sources frame this as the second Godhead, who Hebrew says created the heavens, coming as a creature, yielding to fulfill the commands he himself declared. Matthew 5.7c, not abolishing the law, but fulfilling it. Okay, let's tackle this list. Purpose A, inheriting God's name. Why does God need to inherit his own name? Good question. It's not about gaining something he lacked intrinsically. It's about his status and authority within creation, validated publicly. By humbling himself, becoming human, obeying perfectly, even through the cross, he earns the right to wield that name's authority within the created order he entered. So it's a validation, a public demonstration of his right to rule as the obedient Adam.
Exactly.
Think Philippians 2. Because he obeyed even to death on a cross, God highly exalted him and gave him the name above all names. The inheritance is the public, cosmic recognition of the authority inherent in that name, earned through obedience within the system. Purpose B, revealing God's glory.
The glory can be shown in power, obviously, but the sources stress the cross reveals glory paradoxically through weakness, suffering, sacrifice. You mentioned Hebrews 1 and Psalm 102, the heavens will perish, but you remain. He's eternal, creation is temporary.
So how does temporary suffering show eternal glory? Seems backwards.
It shows glory by demonstrating his sovereignty over decay and death. The Eternal One willingly enters the temporary, fragile system, experiences its worst, but remains eternal and overcomes it through resurrection. It proves his glory isn't dependent on creation's stability. He conquers the corruptible system he made. Okay. By overcoming it from within. Got it. Purpose C, proving God's love. No. This one seems obvious, but context is key. It's about proving love against the backdrop of justice. If God just said, okay, everyone's forgiven, ignoring the law's requirement,
It wouldn't seem fair. Or real.
it might seem sentimental, not righteous. The cross proves love because it shows God willing to pay the price. His own perfect justice demanded, which is purpose E. The sacrifice is the proof.
So the love is validated because it meets the demands of justice.
Yes. It gives an objective measure for that love, the cost required to uphold righteousness while still offering grace. It proves God's character. Okay. Purpose D, saving the first Adam. Going. That's very specific. Not just saving humanity. It emphasizes the legal representative aspect. Coming as Adam, the second Godhead acts as the perfect stand-in for the first human, the one who failed. The decree required the fix to happen on the same level as the failure.
So fulfilling the requirements, Adam broke, resolving the original problem at its source.
Exactly. The second Adam rectifies the first Adam's failure legally, which then opens the door for the whole lineage. It connects the cosmic plan right back to the specific beginning of the human story.
Right.
Leads into the legal side. Purpose E, proving God's justice righteousness. This is absolutely central. Justice demands consequences for breaking the law. If sin is just swept under the rug, the whole moral order collapses. God's own character is questioned.
So how does the cross prove justice, not just satisfy it?
It proves it by showing God himself upholds it, even at infinite cost. The second Godhead, acting as Adam, takes the decreed penalty. This honors the law, pays the price, and demonstrates that God's justice is perfect, unchanging, and he's bound by his own righteous standards.
Justice is satisfied, and in being satisfied that way, its perfection is proven.
Exactly.
Which links directly to purpose F, proving the truth of the commandment.
The law itself. Yes. If the law says the wages of sin is death, but that can be waived without consequence, then is the law really true? Is it absolute? We mentioned Matthew 5.7 not abolishing, but fulfilling, down to the smallest detail.
Right.
The law decreed the consequence. The cross executed that consequence perfectly. By submitting to it, the divine creator, acting as creature, validates the law's eternal truth and authority. It can't be broken or ignored, even by God himself within the system.
Okay, shifting focus slightly. Purpose G, exposing Satan's wickedness. Doneoyan. This paints the cross as a kind of divine sting operation. Satan and the powers of darkness thought they were winning. They orchestrated the death of this figure they saw as a threat.
They acted out of malice, but their malice served the plan. How does that expose them?
It lures them into committing the ultimate crime, attempting deicide, killing the Lord of Glory, even though they didn't realize who he fully was. In their eagerness to destroy, they revealed their absolute opposition to God's righteous plan. The cross, followed by the resurrection, makes their evil undeniable, public, and ripe for judgment. The ultimate self-incrimination on a cosmic scale. Pretty much. Which sets up purpose H. Judging the offenders. Dig again. Offenders being both spiritual and human.
Yes. For Satan and demonic forces, the cross is their legal defeat. It breaks their power over death. For the human ages, Pilate, Herod, the crowds, even though their actions were utilized, they still chose freely to oppose God's servant.
So judgment for their choice, even if the choice served the bigger picture.
Correct. Utilization doesn't erase culpability. They are judged for their rebellion, upholding the justice of the law. The cross becomes the point of judgment for opponents, even as it's the point of salvation for believers. Okay, now for maybe the trickiest one. Purpose 1. Perfecting free will. Protecting free will. How does a precept plan perfect freedom? This is complex. Perfecting here doesn't mean making everyone choose rightly. It means bringing free will to its ultimate expression and accountability against the backdrop of the sovereign plan.
How so?
The plan uses the ultimate misuse of free will, the conspiracy, the rejection, to show the terrible consequences of rebellion. But it also showcases the ultimate perfect use of free will, the second Godhead's voluntary obedience to the decree. So free will is fully tested. Its capacity for total evil and total submission are both put on display.
So the predetermined framework actually allows free will to fully play out, but channels the results. Whether rebellion or obedience, the outcome still serves the decree, defining the boundaries and consequences that give freedom meaning.
You could say that. Freedom isn't freedom from the plan or from consequence. It's freedom to choose allegiance or rebellion, knowing both choices ultimately confirm the Creator's overarching design and authority. The cross is the ultimate test case. Okay, almost there. Purpose J, eliminating sin in space-time. Immune, Kuryu, This brings it back to the physical world. Yes, sin isn't just spiritual. It brought corruption, decay, physical death into the material universe. Space and time themselves are affected.
So the solution had to happen in space-time.
Exactly. The incarnation put the divine solution inside the contaminated system. The physical death, the blood shed on a specific hill at a specific time, this was the necessary mechanism to cleanse sin's effects within the material order. It's like cosmic decontamination, setting the stage for a renewed physical creation. And that leads to the grand finale. Purpose K, completing creation. Achim Zalang, it ties it all together. The cross is the finishing touch. Without it, creation stays incomplete, subject to failure and decay.
Twain making peace through the blood, reconciling all things, earth and heaven. It's universal.
It's the cosmic reset button, or maybe the final calibration. The decree foresaw the disharmony, and the cross was the decreed method to restore harmony not just between God and humans, but across the entire cosmos, visible and invisible. It transitions creation from temporary and flawed to eternal and perfect. The cross becomes the cornerstone of the finished universe.
It's staggering. To think one event could carry the weight of all 11 purposes planned before anything was made.
It forces a perspective shift. History isn't random. It's the unfolding of an eternal script.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really challenges how we see history. The main takeaway has to be that the cross wasn't an accident or a tragedy God reacted to.
No, it was pre-cosmic, meticulously planned, necessary, according to these sources, for completing the universe itself.
Yeah.
All the human drama, the politics, the betrayal, that was just the implementation phase, ultimately serving the sovereign plan.
And for you listening, maybe the real aha moment is how detailed this predetermination was, especially that the ruler's ignorance wasn't a mistake.
Right. Them not knowing who they were dealing with was essential. It was a strategic necessity within the plan, ensuring their free, wicked choices would lead exactly where the decree needed them to go.
Which leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? Something to chew on.
Yeah. If this divine plan was so precise that it could perfect free will, purpose I, while actively using human evil, purpose G, and political chaos, X4, to reach its goal, what does that say about our own choices today?
Right. If even terrible mistakes can be woven into this grand tapestry of completion, does knowing about this ultimate decree make us less responsible for our choices? Or somehow more responsible?
Knowing that every choice, potentially, has a place in this larger story, whether as a vessel for honor or, well, the alternative, does it change the weight of our freedom?
That's definitely something to ponder.
It absolutely is. Understanding the sovereign scope really forces you to think about the gravity of every free choice.
Well, thank you for walking us through that incredibly deep material. And thank you all for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.